Hi everyone, Aaron here for that snazzy iPhone guy, and we're going to review the iPad 2 today. I've had the iPad for a couple weeks, I've been using it regularly, and wanted to give you my take on it. This isn't going to be a very long review since you probably know what you're getting into with an iPad. If you haven't seen one before, it's basically like a giant iPod Touch with a larger, nicer screen. The iPad 2 brings a new camera to the table with a front-facing camera, a rear-facing camera, and a dual-core processor, also a boost in RAM from 256 to 512. Those RAM increases and processor increases do make a big difference, but aren't necessarily the best reason to go sell your iPad 1 or go give it away and then get an iPad 2 unless you have a specific thing you want to do with them. The cameras are good basically for FaceTime, which you actually have on here. Photo booth, which let me show you. It can render all of this at once thanks to the faster processor and the faster graphics chip. There we go. Apple claims up to 9 times the graphic speed, and I would say I believe them due to how quickly video renders, things like that. But the iPad itself, design-wise, obviously you can see this is white. They come in white and black now. They also have a thinner profile. It weighs a little bit less. Not a whole lot less, but it is noticeable. You do have the speaker here. Let me talk about the negative things. So the reasons you may not want to upgrade would be, first of all, it is thinner, and that's sometimes not always a good thing. It's to the point where it's tough to say you want it to be so thin that it feels maybe flimsy. It's right on the edge of that. And one of the things they've done, because it's so thin, is move all of these switches and buttons to the side. So we have our volume rocker, our rotation lock switch, or volume mute switch, depending on how you set it up. They're now on an angle. They used to be flat, so you could, while this is down, you could just hit them on the side. Now you actually kind of have to lift it up a little bit. And while that may not seem like a big deal, and it really isn't, it's definitely something different, and it's honestly more annoying. On the top, same with all the switches. One of the biggest things, though, is this dock connector on the bottom. The dock connector, because it's on an angle, is more difficult to plug in the connector, and it makes for a very difficult time unless you're looking directly at it. It used to be pretty easy to just plug it in because it was flat, and then you have to be careful not to kind of plug it in sideways. You want to plug it in straight, and that it's tough because it's on an angle. Maybe little petty things, but it definitely is noticeable. I've seen people struggle with it, even as goofy as that may sound. The other thing is it just feels so light that I just feel like sometimes I'm going to break it, but I guess it's pretty durable. Let's mention the smart cover, though. I don't want to not mention it since Apple made it specifically for this. It connects magnetically and then unrolls and will unlock and lock the iPad 2 when you open and close, as you can hear there. It also rolls up into a stand. You can prop the iPad up like this. You can prop it up this way. It's also strong enough to hold the iPad 2. It's pretty tough, and it needs to be, because when it's propped up this way, you don't want it to tip over and just detach. It aligns perfectly every single time due to the way they've put a huge amount of magnets in this, and that has no effect on the type of hardware that this is using, flash RAM and things like that. But other than that, really, there's not a whole lot more to go into. It's an iPad. It runs the same OS. The one advantage it has application-wise is it can run iMovie, which the iPad 1 cannot. It won't actually even let you install it. Other than that, though, it does FaceTime. It's fast. It's great for reading magazines, more so now that they're much faster as far as turning pages and rendering things. And some games look sharper. It also gives the ability in the future to play games and can output HDMI, but you do need a dongle for that. That's an extra $40. So there's not a whole lot more to go into, but basically it's a nice new iPad that's faster, has a camera for FaceTime, not a camera for pictures, and does a good job of being the next evolution of iPad. The thing I would recommend the most, though, is once the Retina display makes its way to the iPad 2, then would be the time to definitely upgrade if you're up in the air about it. I think you'd be just as happy keeping the iPad you have now unless you must have that FaceTime camera than going out and running out and waiting in line or whatever you need to do at this point to get this iPad. If you have any questions, though, please feel free to ask in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to that Snazzy iPhone guy, definitely do that, as he has some great videos, Quinn. And please subscribe to Zolotech as well, if you don't mind. This is Aaron, and as always, stay snazzy.